This is the story of the one. As head of maintenance at a concert hall, he knows the show must always go on. That's why he works behind the scenes, ensuring every light is working, the HVAC is humming, and his facility shines. With Granger's supplies and solutions for every challenge he faces, plus 24/7 customer support, his venue never misses a beat. Call quickgranger.com or just stop by. Granger, for the ones who get it done.
Looking for these better days.
It is Football Friday, September 26th. I'm Scott Seidenberg. Here's what you need to know to make today a better day. The Seahawks get past the Cardinals last night on Thursday Night Football, and we come one leg shy of cashing our same-game parlay. Jared Smith joins me here on a Football Friday Part 1 episode. If you're new to the program, thanks so much for joining in. We do 2 episodes every Football Friday, 1 episode with Jared on the NFL, and we do a college episode that will be out a little bit later on today as well. Also, as a bonus for Better Day subscribers only, I sent out the email yesterday. It is still available up on the website under the research tab. My interview with Michael Fabiano of SI Fantasy, talking all things fantasy football for this coming weekend in the NFL. So if you haven't done so already, go to the website, betterday.com, and check that out. Jared, we start with last night's game. The Seahawks with the 23-20 victory over the Cardinals in a game in which they led the entire way, let it slip away late. The Cardinals coming back to tie it, not go for 2 in the win. And then Seattle, by luxury of a kick that doesn't get into the landing zone, and they get the advanced field position, easy field goal range, and they get the victory. How would you sum up last night's game?
Yeah, I haven't looked at the success rates yet, but the Seahawks dominated the stats. They won yards per play by 2 net yards. Their defense was locked down all night, and you credit Arizona, you credit Marvin Harrison for making a few plays late and picking himself off the map. I tweeted in the first half, I was like, I'm out on Marvin, and then of course he plays a great second half. But I do think there's kind of a little bit of disconnect between him and Kyler right now. But in general, I just think the game went exactly as we expected it to go. I mean, we did the early segment earlier this week on Monday, and we were talking about how we thought Seattle as a dog was probably mispriced as a favorite. Once it got to 2, I think that's kind of where, as a road favorite, I think that's where you saw some money come back in on Arizona. But Seattle right now looks much better than anticipated with Darnold. I mean, and right now we're at that point, week 4, where you've got to start ditching your priors if you're wrong. And I thought Geno to Darnold was a downgrade, and that was the completely wrong assessment. I think it might be actually be an upgrade. And I think it's fair to say that his time working under KOC and Shanahan, 2 really good quarterback gurus, has matured him a lot. And he looks like a very different quarterback in Seattle, and they've got a lot of weapons around him.
Yeah, it was one of those games where you kind of sat there in the second half or the fourth quarter, and I thought Doug Kazarian, shout out Doug, had a great tweet last night. He was like, it's that time of the game where defenses play prevent and Kyler Murray comes back and like fools people into thinking that he's a capable quarterback. And it's like it happens all the time because he goes throughout the game and you're like, yeah, this guy just ain't it, right? And then at the end of the game, he engineers some sort of comeback when the defense is laxed. He runs for a couple of big plays, and all of a sudden it's like, man, Kyler Murray is him. But really, he's not.
Yeah, I feel the same way about Kyler heading into the year than I did right now. I mean, I think he's got all the potential in the world, and it'll help if really, honestly, James Conner being out is the biggest issue with them.
Yep.
They're a very different team without him. He does so much, pass blocking, receptions. We had the Benson prop last night, and he had 5 catches, but it just was all it looks like it just was in the wrong spots where he was catching it, and like you have 5 catches as a running back, you should break one of those. If you're getting set up in the screen game on that many out of the backfield. So it just looks like they're a team that has a ton of talent. They're really banged up in the secondary. They're really banged up on defense. They have to play a ton of zone to make up for that. And that's why you have Josh Sweat, defensive lineman, guarding Elijah Arroyo deep down the field, who's a freaking freakish, nightmarish matchup for even a linebacker or a safety. And you got a defensive lineman guarding him. I mean, it's a mismatch. And Seattle was able to take advantage of those early in the game, but it seems like in the NFL, it's just you just buy the peak and sell the valley. I mean, it just seems like there's always these crazy comebacks. We had a special
Yeah.
teams play, missed field goal that really opened the door. If who's it, Myers, kicker for Seattle,
Hmm.
makes that first field goal, Seattle wins by 3, and they don't need the late field goal. But that miss, right? We've had a lot of missed field goals, blocked field goals, opened the door for backdoor situations. So it was a Plinko. It was a Plinko cube, and we were on the or Plinko puck, and we were on the right side of it tonight with the Seahawks.
Saw this great trend from Evan Abrams of the Action Network, and it held true again last night and add another win to the record here. But this season, you mentioned the comebacks. Comebacks are the trend in the NFL. If all you did was take the team that is losing at the half and bet them against or on the second half spread with the cover last night by the Cardinals in the second half, you are now 29-16 against the spread this season. So that's the second half spread, not the full game spread. So you look at the halftime line, the team that is trailing this season through 3 weeks and one game, 29-16 ATS in the second half. It's incredible.
Yeah, it is. I mean, listen, you know how these games are. You get up big, you conserve the win.
Mhm.
That leads to comebacks
Yep.
because teams get away from the game plan, which got them the lead. And it goes against what you should be doing, but there is this not for long, I call it TPS or TTS or TSS. Yeah, can't get it's late. Tight sphincter syndrome. It's just you just get tight late. These coaches get tight late. You know who doesn't have tight sphincter syndrome? Dan Campbell. That like to me, like that's the difference between a coach like Gannon and a coach like Campbell. And it's
Mhm.
nothing against Gannon. Really smart guy. McDaniel probably in that same boat as well. Like these guys are super smart and they understand the analytics and the X's and O's and everything, but they've never been in a dogfight and a battle before. And then when it gets tight late, they get tight. And that's why you see a lot of these comebacks that take place.
Yep. You just wanted to say sphincter on the show
I
as many
did.
times
Well,
as you
I've
could.
used it on a lot of shows. I just I couldn't get the abbreviation right in my head. Where the letters were all fakaked.
All right. So the week 4 gets off to a bang here with the Cardinals coming back but falling short. Seattle gets the win 23-20. So the flip of the favorite was correct as Seattle does cover as a 1.5-point favorite. And the game goes under the total of 43.5 or 44, depending
Barely.
on what,
How about
yeah,
that?
depending on the number that you have. A little bit of a sweat there, but it does go under.
Yeah, overtime
Let's now,
probably kills that. Probably kills
sure.
it.
Let's progress
Especially
into
with new
Sunday.
rules.
And one of the themes I want to talk about, Jared, is a couple of trends that I looked up here. The first one has to do with 0-3 teams. And if you go since the start of the 2021 season, 0-3 teams in week number 4 are 9-3-2 against the spread, covering by 4.5 points per game. If you just go back the last 10 years, so forget about 4 seasons, let's go back the last 10 seasons. 27, 14, and 3 against the spread. So 0-3 teams, 66% ATS. Now, I found an interesting subset of that. When these teams are favored, like the Dolphins and the Texans are this week, 4-0 straight up, winning by over a touchdown per game, covering the spread 3-0-1 ATS. And if you go back to 2012, 12-5 straight up, 10-5-2 against the spread. So we have the Dolphins and the Texans as 0-3 favorites. Let's start with the Houston Texans, who are taking on the Tennessee Titans and Cam Ward, who's been banged up a bit here. Houston, a 7.5-point favorite. I believe they're going to win this game. Are you comfortable laying the points with the Houston Texans?
I did. It's actually one of my favorite plays of the week. So I did a little more digging on the 3-0, or excuse me, the 0-3 favorites. And
Mm-hmm.
in the Bet Labs database, which goes back to 2005, they don't have a team favored by more than 5.5 points ever at 0-3. And last year it was the Bengals as a 5.5 point road favorite at 0-3
Mm-hmm.
in Carolina against Andy Dalton and the Panthers, and they won by 10, covered the spread. So that it's a historical type of
Yeah.
spread for an 0-3 team to be a full touchdown favorite, and it looks like we're kind of trending towards 7.5. I don't know if we get there. Maybe the Cam Ward positive news that he practiced on Thursday in full might knock that thing right to the flat 7, and maybe that's where we
Yeah.
close. But um, it's still a full touchdown for an 0-3 team. Now, you got to contextualize it against who they're playing. So the Titans have, so I was looking at the Titans yards per play over the first 3 weeks. Let me pull up my notes here because they're all the way at the top of my page. So in week 1 against Denver, they were at 2.4. Then last week against the Rams, 3.9, and then up to 4.3 actually in last week. Week 2 was against the Rams. So slowly making slow progress. But then you throw this wrench in there that they're changing coordinators this week and they're changing play callers.
Or play
And
callers, yeah, not court, yeah.
yeah. But here's the weird part about this. So I was digging more into that, and they're not letting the OC call the plays. It's
No.
the quarterback's coach,
Mhm.
Bo Hardigree.
Yep.
So based on what I read, Holes, the OC, is going to still design plays for base downs. Hardigree is going to handle the third downs. The receivers coach is going to handle red zone, and the running backs coach is going to handle the screens. And that's apparently how they run things normally, but the only difference is now Callahan's not calling plays. Sounds like a cluster for a rookie
Yes.
quarterback trying to learn a new
Yeah.
system who's missed some practice time this week, to be perfectly frank. So
Mhm.
I don't know how you can back the Titans right now. They're 3-17 against the spread since Callahan took over. I mean, that is abysmal. And that record lines up with their straight up record. So I'm all on Houston here.
I love it, and the fact that you can get the flat 7s, that would be a play on the Houston Texans here. And yeah, Tennessee's offense, they are the second worst EPA per play offense in the NFL through the first 3 weeks. They just haven't done anything. And now you're going on the road to face a hungry 0-3 D'Amico Ryans defense. They're going to get after the quarterback a lot in this game. So I think that it's going to be a big, like, right now, I'm telling you right now, you want to sprinkle on a little anytime touchdown, go Houston defense / special teams, because I think there could be a defensive score in
I'll hate
this
that.
game. But I would lay it here. Let's talk about the other 0-3 favorite, and that is the Miami Dolphins against the New York Jets. Now, Justin Fields did return to practice, so a little bit of optimism that Justin Fields will play for the Jets. They do have the extra day because it's on Monday as opposed to being on Sunday. But the Dolphins right now are favored over the New York Jets. They are 2.5-point favorites. The 2.5s are at -120. There's a chance this thing gets to 3. Would you lay it with Miami here, looking at these trends of the 0-3 favorites?
Yes. But the Jets have this weird thing about covering and not winning. Can someone tell Aaron Glenn that his team lost the game on Sunday? I think
No,
he's
no, we got to
confused.
celebrate. We got to celebrate because
I
we're
think
so
he's
happy.
confused.
Moral victories.
That's man, and listen, I have a lot of Jets fans that follow me. I think you're a Jets fan too, right?
Mhm.
It just that kind of shit drives me nuts.
Yeah.
Like they seem like a team that's just happy to compete. Now they'll be feisty and cover a bunch of numbers. Now this number's obviously tighter, right? It's gonna be hard for the Jets to keep it within the number and lose the game. But don't put anything past the Jets. They'll figure out a way to lose this game by 2.
Yeah.
But this game absolutely means more to McDaniel than it does to Glenn. I mean, McDaniel's really on the hot seat where Aaron Glenn is clearly
Yes.
still in the honeymoon phase, applauding losses. Like, yeah, good job, guys, great effort. We'll get him next game. Like that's something I say to my 12-year-old kids, when I coach them, and even them, I would get a little harder on them if they lost the game than Aaron Glenn applauding it. I would never applaud a loss. I would shake the hand of the team after the game, and I would go back and talk to my team and say, good effort, but we need to clean this
Yeah.
up. I don't understand how an NFL head coach is applauding losses. It mind boggles me. It boggles my freaking mind. But the Jets will battle. They'll be feisty. 2 is Charlie check down. That's what I noticed. 4.3 yards per attempt last week. That was the second lowest of any quarterback. So it's kind of tough to really think of them as an explosive offense at this point, despite their weapons. This feels like an under game to me. Sloppy Monday night game, 20-17. The Dolphins pull out a squeaker. That's what it feels like to me.
So this, obviously being a Jets fan, like when the Jets go down to Miami, it's like another home game.
Yeah, it's gonna be humid down there too, I'm sure.
Yeah. So that could the weather. Yeah, but it's a night game, so it's not going to be as hot as it.
But
would
the
be.
humidity it doesn't matter. The humidity,
Sure.
the air is always
Yeah.
bad down there, even when it's nighttime.
But as far as the crowd, like it's always been a pro Jets crowd down there. And if you go look at the history of the database, going back to 1989, the Jets are 22-11-2 in Miami,
Interesting.
ATS. But recent history, because the Jets have been bad recently, they are just 2-6 in their last 8, 2-6 ATS in their last 8 trips down to Miami.
Yeah, different
So
coaching staff for the Jets. Tough
sure,
to, and the Jets have, how many quarterbacks have cycled through. Like,
yep,
I think with certain trends like that are more team based and not market based, I really struggle to contextualize them. Like, how
yeah.
many different quarterbacks and how many times were the Jets like a 10-point dog down there against a good Dolphins team? Like, this is a tight game. Whoever wins is going to cover.
I would agree here. I would just bring it up because the crowd is not the like it's
Sure.
there's always a pro Jets crowd down there. But under Mike McDaniel, like the Dolphins are 2-1 ATS against the Jets, and 3-0 straight up in
How
Miami
many
over the
Jets
last.
fans are even still left publicly cheering for the team? Like, give me a call, honestly. I
Yeah,
don't
I mean,
really know any that still
fire,
are
is Fireman Ed
publicly.
still? Did he retired and came
He
back? I mean,
retired and then he came back. It's a
yeah,
freaking mess. It's a
yeah,
disaster. And Aaron Glenn, I four games in, we'll get a better sense this week if they battle down there in Miami.
mhm,
But 4 games in is when you really start to change your priors. I had high hopes that this team was going to start to show some culture early on. But like I said, culture is not built on game days. It's built
yeah.
in the times that we don't see. And then on game days is when that culture flashes. And it other than being happy to be in the game, we haven't seen it yet for the Jets and Aaron Glenn.
We'll talk a little bit more about this game and the other Monday night game between the Bengals and the Broncos coming up on Monday morning's show. So let's get to the rest of these Sunday games. And it starts bright and early in Dublin, Ireland, between the Vikings and the Steelers. Minnesota is a 2.5-point favorite over the Steelers. And despite what other podcasts might say, the Steelers are not home dogs here. The game is in Ireland. So let's remind folks about that. And this is what I think is very interesting here. I looked at last year's game between the Jets and the Vikings, which was also an international game. But that's the only time that we've seen Aaron Rodgers against Brian Flores. And in that game, Rodgers had a negative 21.7 EPA, his offensive EPA ranking, negative 0.38 per dropback. He was sacked 3 times. He threw 3 interceptions. He had a negative 13.2 completion percentage over expected. So while the score looked a little bit closer because the Jets actually came back and gave themselves a chance in that game last year in London, Aaron Rodgers was terrible against this Vikings defense. I see no reason why this year with this Steelers team, it's going to be any different. I think Brian Flores has his number. I think Brian Flores is going to draw up a great scheme. I think the Vikings are getting healthier which is great for them, right? We saw Darisaw get back. We saw, Harrison Smith get back. Like a healthier Vikings team, I'm laying it here on the road. Or not, I'm in across the pond in Ireland. I'm laying it. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't argue that. The numbers for Wentz were good last week, 8th out of 32 qualifiers in efficiency, no turnovers. Rodgers so far 3 weeks in, 22nd out of 27 qualifiers in efficiency. He's a below average quarterback, maybe average at best at this stage of his career. He can kind of steady the ship and make some nice plays, but he's not going to elevate his team, I think. The biggest surprise is the Steelers' defense being 23rd in EPA per play through 3 weeks. That is alarming. They lose that game last week if the Patriots had 4 turnovers in plus territory, 2 of them at the 2-yard line.
Yep.
So I just don't really see a whole lot of upside with Pittsburgh right now. They're kind of hanging on for dear life and fortunate to have, what do they have, 2 wins under their belt? Or just
They
1?
shouldn't. They shouldn't
Yeah,
for
they
sure.
shouldn't. They're
Yeah.
2-1, right?
They're 2-1. They could very easily be 0-3 because the
Yes,
one win against
very
the one
easily be 0-3.
you talked about last week against the Patriots, but the win against the Jets, if
Yes, that's the
Xavier
game. Yep.
Gibson doesn't fumble the kickoff,
Yeah,
the Jets win that game. So this could
100%.
be they're 2-1. They could be 0-3, literally.
Minnesota under a field goal feels like a good bet.
We all know that owning a small business means you wear many hats, but sometimes you really need an extra pair of hands. Upwork is how good companies find great and trusted freelance talent. With more than 2 decades of experience, with the simple and ambitious goal of pioneering a better way of working, companies at every stage turn to Upwork to get things done and find more flexibility in staffing key projects and initiatives. They access a global marketplace filled with top talent in IT, web dev, marketing, and more. Posting a job on Upwork is easy. With no cost to join, you can register, browse freelancer profiles, and get help drafting a job post or even book a consultation. From there, you connect with freelancers that get you and can easily hire them and take your business to the next level. Visit Upwork.com right now and post your job for free. That's Upwork.com to post your job for free and connect with top talent ready to help your business grow. That's UPWORK.com, Upwork.com.
Lowe's knows how to help make your home holiday ready for less. Get Select Style Selections vinyl flooring for just $1.99 per square foot and have it installed before the festivities begin. Our team can help you every step of the way. See a Lowe's Red Vest associate or visit Lowe's.com/holiday install to get started. Lowe's, we help, you save. Basic install only. Date restrictions apply. Subject to availability. Installed by independent contractors. See associate for details. Contiguous U.S. only.
All right, let's move on to the Commanders at the Falcons, where Jaden Daniels feels good, but his status is up in the air still. He was limited in practice on Thursday, and again, no official word for his availability for this game. Right now, we have Washington as a 1-point favorite at Circa over Atlanta, and based on what we saw from Marcus Mariota like last week, even if it's not Daniels, I think you have to be comfortable with laying it here with Washington. Meanwhile,
Yeah,
Atlanta, I mean, my goodness, Jared, everybody was singing the praises of the Atlanta defense because of the performance against Minnesota, but maybe that was just because of J.J. McCarthy not being good. And look at what they did last week, allowing the Panthers to score 30 points against them while being shut out. So how good is this Falcons defense?
They're good. They're fifth in efficiency. They're good. The problem is Penix can't complete the broadside of a barn right now. At least that's what the numbers tell us. He was 31st out of 32 qualifiers in EPA per dropback last week. Atlanta's offense so far through 3 weeks is 27th in efficiency. Penix threw 2 picks. They didn't reach the red zone. Weird game statistically against Carolina last week. It looks like McLaurin's the real injury problem for Washington right now. I think Daniels plays. I think this line moves off a pick by Sunday. I think Washington at a pick's a good bet today, because I do think Daniels will play. And yeah, I think his running ability will be limited, but let's be honest. I would take 75% of Jaden Daniels over 100% of Marcus Mariota right now. I think that's a fair assessment to make. And I think this Commanders team is legit, honestly. I think they need to win, stack wins, because the Eagles keep stacking wins. So there's not going to be any let off with this team or any, oh, hey, we're complacent to start our year, 2-1 and blah, blah, blah. No, they got to keep winning games. The NFC is a lot better than people thought. The Niners are 3-0. The Rams look good. Obviously Philly's 3-0. So I think Washington's going to have some giddy up here. And I think Atlanta is a cursed franchise. I think they are the dregs. I don't like what I see with Penix, so I'd be fading the Falcons at home right now.
Let's talk about those Eagles. Philly goes into Tampa Bay. You want to talk about a banged up team in Tampa Bay. Philly is a 3.5-point favorite, and Tampa, the injuries. I mean, Evans is now out. Ibuka's been great for them, but now the defense is going to focus on him because they still don't have Godwin. Sterling Shepard could probably have a big moment in this game. You saw that they re-signed their 450-pound guy that they cut earlier.
In the Terminator.
The tush push Terminator. Exactly. I love it. Just line up the fattest guy on the field to stay in the middle during the tush push.
4 Bills.
It's amazing. But here's something that an interesting angle, and shout out to one of our listeners, Steven, who emailed this in. If you look at Saquon Barkley's game logs, Jared, he has not had a double-digit yard run this season.
Nope.
Like, go look at Saquon Barkley in 3 games for the Philadelphia Eagles has had a long rush of oh no, he has double digits. He hasn't gone over his longest rush prop. So he had 16 yards, 13 yards, and 12 yards. In the first 3 weeks for Saquon Barkley, his longest rush prop was 21.5 under, 20.5 under, 18.5 under. This week, it's down to 16.5. Is
Wow.
that an overreaction in the market because he's gone under for the first 3 games? If you go back to every game he has played in Philadelphia or for the Philadelphia Eagles, he has never gone 3 straight games without a 20-yard run. This is the first time since he joined the Eagles that he has gone 3 straight games without a 20-yard run. Now we know about the Bucs' talented rush defense with the big fatty in the middle now. And then, boy, if you can make Vita Vea look skinny, I mean, that's impressive. But is this the game where we buy the dip and we play the over Saquon longest rush?
Yeah, I mean, the Eagles, despite the fact that they're 32nd dead last in explosive pass rate, they're 12th in explosive rush rate. So the potential is still there. They still have the option, I think, to really spread you out and then make Saquon a very willing runner. His numbers have obviously not been good so far. I actually went under on him preseason at 14.25.
Great bet.
Which is looking great right now. I went under on both him and Henry. Call me crazy, but I think the year of the running back might have been last year. I think this year is going to be the year of the quarterback back again, where the quarterbacks are taking back over, the primetime spotlight. But it does feel like the Bucs are in a real cluster injury spot. That's tough to really. I mean, Baker's nails, man. Like, he's just nails.
Yep.
5th in EPA per dropback, no picks. Only 4 other QBs that have played in all 3 games haven't thrown a pick yet. Hurts, Lamar, Josh Allen, Daniel Jones, because obviously, and Baker. They should get Godwin back. I think this is a close game. I think the Eagles have been skating on thin ice. But I made this comp on the BetUS show today, and I'll toss it to you about it. Are the Eagles last year's Chiefs, where they look like crap every week, but they still win games?
You see, that's a great question, Jared. And this is why you do what you do, because you think about these things. And I thought about this with the Chiefs last year. And my comparison wasn't another football team. My comparison was to an NBA comparison. When the Golden State Warriors were in the midst of their dynasty, there was after they had the record wins, right?
The 70 whatever.
Yeah.
73,
After that season, they were not really covering the regular season. They were kind of meandering through the regular season, and it became one of those things where when you know you're going to be in the playoffs and you know what it takes to go through the grind that is the playoffs, sometimes these veteran teams just throttle it down in the regular season. And we saw it from the Kansas City Chiefs last year. The Kansas City Chiefs said, you know what? We're going to make the playoffs. And you know what? We know exactly what it takes to win every week in the playoffs. Let's take it easy. We don't have to push Travis, you don't have to push yourself during the regular season. We need you in the playoffs. Stay healthy. We don't need you. Let's just cool yourself a little bit. Go have fun with your girl. We're okay. The Eagles win the Super Bowl last year, and now they might be thinking to themselves, look, we're the class of the NFC. We're going to make the playoffs again. We know what it takes to win every week in the playoffs. Let's make sure that we're healthy and ready for the playoffs. And so, Saquon, take it easy during the regular season. Hey, guys, take it easy. We don't need to push ourselves so hard because whether it's 13 wins or 12 wins or 11 wins, we're still going to make the playoffs. And that might be what we're seeing here from Philadelphia.
Sure. I think that's exactly what they are. But that doesn't mean I want to lay more than a field goal with them, especially on the road. Against a team that's kind of had their number lately. I mean, the last really bad, ugly, gross, oh my God, Eagles rock bottom loss was in the playoffs 2 years ago in Tampa. And that's when they got rid of the coordinators and then they reloaded with Kellen Moore and Fangio, and then they won the Super Bowl the next year. So Bowles kind of has this team's number. You would think, and again, another week. We talked about it on last week's Friday pod, and it didn't come to fruition, despite the fact that they false started on another tush push and they didn't call it, even though they said
Yes,
they were going to
yes,
call it
yes,
tighter. They
yes,
didn't
yes,
call it tighter, and they
yes.
went 4 for 5 on fourth downs. I mean, it really is a very strange strategy to rely on every week to just get to 4th and 1. And I don't know if they're going to allow them to continue to do it, but until they call the false starts on these
hmm
tush pushes, I can't really go against Philly. It's kind of like the Chiefs of last year. Again, I think they're going to win the game. The spread's probably right. Maybe you go under 44.5 because neither team can really explode right now. But I
hmm
do like what I saw in the second half last week from the Eagles offense. They found a weakness in the Rams secondary. They were playing a lot of cover two, as most teams do these days, and they were sending Goddard on the seam up the middle, and that put that safety in conflict. And they would basically just run 4 verts like you would in Madden. And
Yeah.
you put those whole safeties in conflict. And Goddard caught a touchdown on a seam route, and then they had a bunch of other explosives in the second half on just basic vertical routes because they were noticing a flaw in that cover two where a linebacker had to drop in and they just kind of were inverting it, and it was not a good situation for the Rams. So maybe Patullo's kind of finding his rhythm a little bit as a play caller. I had my doubts before the season, but you nailed it. It's the running game. They got to get that running game going with Saquon for them to really be back to the Eagles offense we remembered last year. They would bludgeon you in the fourth quarter where they would hammer, 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 and then
hmm
they get that big explosive in the fourth quarter with Saquon. He'd go for 50 and a touch, and they would just break your spirits. We haven't seen that yet this year.
I'm going to play that prop. I'm going to play Barkley longest rush over 16 and a half yards. This is buying the dip here because he's gone under in the first 3 games. The prop line is dropping way too much. And then the Bucks the last 2 weeks have allowed multiple carries of 17 or more yards. So it was last week Brees Hall. The week before that, I think it was Chubb, and also even CJ Stroud had like a 19 or 20 yard run in that game. So I think we are getting it here. So I'm going to do it. I'm going to go over 16 and a half for the longest rush here for Saquon Barkley. I'm going to stay away from the spread just because I can see the game going either way. I mean, you're right. I think Philly wins, but I'm going to avoid laying the 3.5 on the road here. Let's talk about this massive spread between the Buffalo Bills and the New Orleans Saints. 15 and a half. 15 and a half. Can I interest you in taking the Saints?
Yeah, I think Fez gave it out on the Bet US show today. He gave out a good trend. I think it was teams coming off a 30-point loss tend to be pretty profitable. I mean, the Saints, listen, I was on Seattle last week, and I think Seattle's a much better team than we expected, and New Orleans was playing better than expected, but Seattle still had the Darnold ghost narrative going against it. I mean, just when we look back on the season and we're like, man, we could have gotten the Seahawks as basically a touchdown favorite at home to New Orleans. We're going to be like, damn, that was the bet of the year right there. But I do think this Saints team is vulnerable to the explosive for sure. And they were really bad on special teams too last week. And that's another thing for you to keep an eye on with Buffalo. Buffalo does have a really good special teams vibe about them. They drew the penalty last week that kind of flipped that game against Miami. They're on long rest, but they have no motivation to win with margin. This is either New Orleans or pass. I wouldn't lay this many points with the Bills.
Yeah, I think what intrigues me is if you want to look at a derivative market is maybe let's just go with the Saints team total to go over. Because they're not going to cover 15 and a half if they don't score any points. So if you think that, hey, they're live to score 15 and a half, or they're live to cover 15 and a half, well, that means that you are banking on them to score a couple of points. It's not going to be a defensive battle. I don't think Buffalo wins this game, 20-3, right?
Then they lose 24-10 and you're pissed off. Because you
nailed
it. Because you nailed it that they're going to keep this game relatively close. The Saints team total what is 10?
No, 7.5.
It's the whole game is 7.5. No, that's got to be the first half.
That's the first half, yeah.
I was going to say, that is a
full game is 16 and a half.
Yeah, I mean, they could lose 24-10, and you nailed the handicap because Buffalo has no motivation to win with margin, and they're just cruise control because they're one of those teams like the Chiefs that know their most important games are in front of them. I don't mind those derivative markets, but much more to the case when I think this offense is undervalued. I don't think the Saints offense is undervalued. I just think it's more a fade of Buffalo winning with margin. Go look at Josh Allen as a double-digit favorite. they have very little motivate. Like Sean McDermott's like a Mr. Nice guy. Like he doesn't want to blow these teams out. And we saw it last week in the Miami game. I laid 11 and I thought the box score read like they should have won by 2 touchdowns or more, and they won by 10. Because the Dolphins were 3 for 3 in the red zone. And the Saints had that weird game against the Niners where they went 3 for 3 in the red zone. Now the Niners still covered because they were only favored by 3, but I like the team total stuff. If you like the Saints in the game, bet the team total. But if you think the Bills are not motivated, then you just take the points.
Since the 2021 season, 15-point favorites or greater are undefeated, 16-0. So survivor pick, cool. 8-7-1 ATS though.
Coin flip.
Yeah, it's exactly it really is. And if you go back,
this game feels like a coin flip. I say Saints or pass.
Mm-hmm.
Feels
yeah,
like
it's
a coin
probably
flip
fair
on the number.
If you go back even further to 2012, well, that's actually good for the team that's winning by a lot. 60% ATS for the team that is a 15-point favorite. But yeah, I have no play on this game, so I'm not going to force
My
one.
vibe on the Saints is they have a really good scheme and they don't have a good quarterback executing the scheme. And
Yes.
eventually you get punked when that happens, like what we saw last week against Seattle. They could very easily get punked again this week if Rattler shits the bed. But if it's just like a normal game, without the explosive turnovers, I think Buffalo wins by 2 touchdowns. And it'll be right on the number, just like it was last week with Miami.
Yep. Patriots, 5.5-point favorites at home against Carolina. Do we want to fade Carolina off the big shutout win last week?
I guess. I just feel like this is an under game. New England gives me Debbie Downer vibes. New England is the Debbie Downer team of 2025. Like the black cloud is just kind of following them around. How do you turn the ball over 4 times in plus territory, twice at the 2? That is absurd. And not only that, their quarterback's playing really well, and they're just like an average offense. And they're below average on defense. They refuse to play their best weapon on offense because he can't block. Like, it's weird. It's a weird vibe. I expected much better energy from a Mike Vrabel coach team, and we haven't seen it yet. Meanwhile, the Panthers have the cluster injury at receiver with McMillan, Leggett, and Renfro on the injury report. They just had a weird game last week where they, scored 30 and gained 4 yards per play. Like, that's crazy. 43 felt like a higher total than it should be for a Panthers team, even though their defense stinks. I think their defense actually played okay last week. But, yeah, I felt like it had under vibes to it this game.
Let me ask you, Ramondre Stevenson's rushing yardage prop is 32.5. Does he see the field?
I have no idea. If I would follow some beat reporters with the Patriots that are closer to the situation than me, I think when you have those situations, it's all about the coach-player relationship. And I haven't covered that team one bit all year, really. I mean, I'm not that close to the beat reporters. I don't have a Boston media connection. I would say follow some of the beat reporters because it's all about how the vibe is between Vrabel and Stevenson. I can't answer that.
The ESPN's Dan Graziano said that the Patriots are likely to reduce his workload.
Makes sense. Why don't you just play Henderson? What do you have to lose at this point? You drafted him in the 2nd round, and he's tearing up the preseason, and the dude hasn't played because he can't block. Figure it out. Call plays that don't require him to block. That's what I would do. But
so maybe we go.
What do I know? I coach 12-year-olds. Like
maybe Travion Henderson over 44.5 rushing yards. Maybe that's the angle.
You would think that's the real play to make because Stevenson comes back in and he's pissed off because he's not playing and he busts 1 yarder and he busts one long one and you're screwed. Yep. Whereas the natural handicap to fading Stevenson would be to actually play the guy that you drafted in the 2nd round to be your game breaker. Yes. That would be, again, what I would do if I was coaching the team. But again, what do I know? I just coach 12-year-olds.
Hey, those 12-year-olds listen, okay?
They are good. They're freaking nasty. Some of them are like 6 feet, 200 pounds.
Let's talk about the Lions. 10-point favorites at home against Cleveland. This is actually a play that I made. I laid the 9.5 with the Detroit Lions. And it's a total fade of the big win by the Cleveland Browns last week. So this is something that we looked up earlier this week, that when you win a game as a touchdown underdog, and then the following week, you are also, once again, a touchdown underdog on the road. You are, in all-time history of the database, 30, 52, and 2 against the spread. Since 2012, you are 8 and 18. These teams are 10 and 74 straight up all-time, 3 and 23 straight up since 2012. This is a spot where the Browns will absolutely crumble. Last week's win was phony. They were down 10 with 3 minutes to go in the game, and they won the game. We are going to fade the miraculous win. Everybody's happy. Everybody's excited. And this is something that I also want to talk about. The Browns were 12.5-point dogs at Baltimore. Okay? Now, the Lions beat Baltimore last week as 4-point dogs. The market was saying that Baltimore was significantly better than Detroit by making Baltimore a 4-point favorite. But now we have to adjust our power rankings. Detroit should get a massive upgrade for that win against Baltimore, right? And so if we're upgrading Detroit, and maybe let's upgrade them to on par with Baltimore. Like, I'm not going to put them ahead of Baltimore, but
no, I have a point behind Baltimore right now.
Okay, that's great. So how are the Browns 12.5-point dogs at Baltimore and only 9.5-point dogs in Detroit?
I have them. I make the game 11.5 there you go. I make the game 11.5. Now, granted, my ratings aren't ideal. Like, I'm not a power ratings expert. My ratings are very rudimentary. But they're still pretty on market most weeks. Like, I check them against the market. For example, I make the Buffalo game 15.5. So
there you go.
You know, I feel like I'm in pretty good position. I
but
made
does
the
that
Arizona
make
game
sense?
tonight. I pick them.
But does that make sense what I'm saying? Like, why are the Browns upgraded?
Sense.
Why are they upgraded off the win last week? They shouldn't.
It makes perfect sense. I wouldn't upgrade. And to take it a point further, the Browns were on my fluke report this week. I wouldn't upgrade the Browns on that game. They gained less than 4 yards per play.
That's what I'm saying.
Jordan Love threw an interception that I don't even know what he was seeing. It was like he was cross-eyed on the play.
Yep. So to me, nothing has changed about the Browns team that was 12.5-point dogs at Baltimore, yet Detroit should get an upgrade now. They should be the same size favorite as Baltimore was. Because also Detroit's a better home field than Baltimore is a home field.
You would think. The only thing that maybe, you downgrade is the short rest coming off a physical game.
Sure.
Maybe you downgrade a half a point for that. Maybe you downgrade a half a point because Myles Garrett is a glitch in the matrix. So maybe that gets you to 10 or 10.5. But I think at 9.5, I think it's a very fair bet to Detroit. I am going to make the case that you should just bet the over every week that the Lions play for the rest of the season because Dan Campbell is a freaking madman and does not punt. And
love it.
I again 44.5. What's to say the Lions, if they do have one of those games where they break out again and just bully? So if I was an offensive coordinator and I was facing Myles Garrett in this defense, I wouldn't do what the Packers did and drop back a million times and leave Jordan Love against the bad offensive line. You know what I would do? You run at it. You run at it. You run at it. You run at it some more, and you keep running at it until eventually they slow down, and then in the second half, you start throwing out of play action. And you have to be very patient with the run game. If it's not working, hope your defense keeps you in it, but also stay at it. So I think the Lions are going to have more offensive success. And again, Dan Campbell does not punt. So I'll take the over 44.5 in this game.
Maybe Lions team total over as well.
Lions team total over, that's another good option.
Love it. Okay, Lions are at the Giants right now. Chargers are at the Giants, excuse me. Chargers are 6.5-point favorites. It is the first start for Jackson Dart. And it's funny. Everybody that you talk to around the market, Jared, says the Sharps love the Giants. The Sharps love the Giants. And it's not so much about the Jackson Dart, although there is a belief that, yes, Jackson Dart does make the Giants better offensively, but it is a bad spot here for the Chargers. So, I talk about the Chargers and everything that they've gone through to start the year, 3 straight division games to start the year, and now the cross-country trips begin. So, cross-country coming here now to play the Giants, then they're going to have to go back home to play the Commanders, then back across the country to play the Dolphins. Like, maybe the mileage starts to add up here. I didn't play a side in this game. What I did play, though, was Jackson Dart over 13.5 yards for his longest rush. If you go back to his college career, 11 of 13 games last year, he had a run of at least 13 yards. If you go back 2 years ago in 2023 and in 2022, he had 10 games where he had a run at least that long. And in the preseason this year, he had a long run of 19 yards versus the Bills and a 23-yard run against the Patriots. Jackson Dart will use his athleticism. I didn't want to play his rushing prop total to go over because it was like 35 yards. Like, that's a lot. But I do think just give me one run for 14 yards. Just take off on a third down, go get the first down or whatever. And it could even happen at the end. The best part about a quarterback longest rush prop is that, like for Kyler Murray, it was dead the entire game until it wasn't, right? Because you can get a situation where a team is trailing late in the game, the defense is playing in that prevent style, they're backing up, and the quarterback just takes off and runs for 15 yards and goes out of bounds or slides down. Like, you can hit this in a multitude of ways, which is why I always like the longest rush prop for a quarterback as opposed to the total rushing yards for the quarterback. Because then again, also kneel downs take away from rushing yards too. But I'm not worried about the Giants kneeling the ball down
in
here.
the NFL, it does not. It's a team rush, but in college football, it does.
Well, no. Do you remember the Patrick Mahomes lost it in the Super Bowl when he
and then
dropped
they
back
changed the
big
rule.
kneel downs?
And then they changed the rule. I thought they changed the rule after that.
Don't believe so. Still believe if you take a kneel down, you get the negative 2 yards.
I thought only in oh no, I'm thinking of sacks. I'm sorry.
You're thinking of sacks in college, yes. Sacks count against quarterback rushing yards
which
in
is
college.
also why I
NFL.
never play a college football quarterback rushing.
No, you can't. Yeah. One sack takes away everything. And we see college kids all the time run backwards for 30 yards. Like, it's unbelievable.
I
But
do play
think,
under sometimes because of that, but I would never play an over.
But I think we see Jackson Dart utilize his legs here. I think he takes off and runs against the Chargers.
That's fair. And that's a good correction. You're right. I was thinking of the sacks. Listen, I think we're at that time now, week 3, week 4, where you have to be willing to change your opinion on teams you were wrong about. I was wrong on the Chargers. I thought Harbaugh and the quirkiness and the weirdness would not latch onto a professional locker room. But, you look at what he did with the Niners. I know it was a really long time ago. And people change over time. He's definitely gotten more dad jokey since he coached the Niners 15 years ago. But it seems to have taken hold. Like, they love him. And I think, frankly, and it's not that I don't love the Steichen story. The Steichen story fits the formula of what a coach of the year typically is. But Jim Harbaugh is beloved.
Yeah.
And I think that gives him a little more leeway with their win total coming into the season at 9.5, where the Colts were 7.5. I don't think Indy's going to win 14 games like the Vikings did last year. They feel like a 10, 11 win team. And the Chargers feel like a maybe 13 win team. So I think this is going to be a tight race between Steichen, if Jones can keep it up, between Steichen and Herbert. I think Herbert really is the guy that's turned the corner. Now, Herbert has a more uphill battle for MVP because Lamar and Josh Allen and Mahomes, like, there's just more hurdles to overcome for Herbert to win MVP. He's a contender, but there's a lot more obstacles than Harbaugh, which is really, if Daniel Jones regresses and Steichen kind of falls off and they're like 9-8, Harbaugh's going to win Coach of the Year. Because they just seem to kind of, doesn't matter, offensive line, mash unit, doesn't matter, Herbert, absolute nails. Maybe it's Keenan Allen. Maybe it's the defense, which looks really good. But I throw out that trend. What was it? 3 straight division wins, and they traveled 2 weeks ago. They won the game the week after the Vegas game. That was the tough game. It's the Vegas flu. When you leave Vegas, it can be weird sometimes. But they came home, and they won the tough game against Denver, and they were home for that game. Now they go east. I don't think that matters. I think don't overthink this. The Chargers, you're going to bet on Jackson Dart in his first career start against a Chargers defense. Bo Nix couldn't figure out this defense. You think Jackson Dart's going to magically figure it out? Like, I'll take my chances with the Chargers here.
It's the other thing that you have to acknowledge that's been really impressive with Herbert is he's utilizing his legs a lot more, like more so than we have seen from him. And that's another, if you have like a Herbert MVP ticket or whatever, that's another thing that is really, it's kind of brought an interesting new dynamic to his game of him utilizing his legs in important spots here. So a lot to love here with the way Justin Herbert.
Let me ask you a question about the Chargers. What's the narrative always been? Collapse fourth quarter, right?
Yes.
He has the number 1 success rate amongst quarterbacks with at least 25 fourth quarter dropbacks this year. Justin Herbert. So if the narrative is the Chargers fold like a cheap tent in the fourth quarter, and the numbers say, and that drive against Denver where he's, eluding pass rushers and throwing dimes to Keenan Allen for game-tying touchdowns in the fourth quarter, what's the weakness? The weakness was always fourth quarter collapse. That doesn't appear to be the weakness anymore. So now what is their weakness?
You just got to get yourself a high profile girlfriend. I mean, it's worked out. It's worked out for Josh Allen, and it's
Yeah.
clearly working here for Justin Herbert.
I guess Travis Kelce's situation still yet to be determined. Although I'd
I
say
mean,
it's working out
he
pretty
won a
well
super.
for him
He
too
won a
in
super.
other
He won a
areas.
Super Bowl, right?
He won a Super Bowl the year they started dating. Very true.
Yes. Oh. Okay. Jacksonville is at San Francisco. The 49ers are 3.5-point favorites. Still unsure of the quarterback situation, but it's likely to be Mac Jones as the 49ers are appearing to get healthier. Ricky Pearsall, he was fine in practice yesterday, so he should be a good to go. For Jacksonville, I don't know what to make of them. Because in some aspects, I do think that, okay, the offense should be better. They have decent pass rushers. They can be a competitive team in this division. And then on the other hand, it's like, I don't like Trevor Lawrence. I don't think he's the guy. Brian Thomas is taking a major step back. There's something more going on there in Jacksonville. I mean, his body language, the short arming passes, not breaking off routes, something more is going on there in Jacksonville that needs to be investigated. And I'm just in love with this 49ers team. I know they lose Bosa. I know it's a big blow to them. This is still an extremely talented football team that I think gets the job done here at home against Jacksonville.
Let me get this straight. The Niners were laying 3 at New Orleans, and they're still laying basically 3 against the Jags at home.
Yeah. Yep.
I think Purdy's back. I think this number moves off the key. I think the Texans are a tough team to gauge right now. The defense is top 5 in EPA per play, but they face Bryce Young, Jake Browning, and CJ Stroud without Mixon and a bad O-line. So tough to really say that their defense is humming. And they have no idea what to do with Travis Hunter, who has 7.5 yards per catch and 16 targets in 3 games. He looks like the toy that you buy and you just don't want to take it out of the box. Here is a tip for the Jaguars front office. This guy was a lockdown corner in college football. Forget the offense crap. He is not Deion Sanders. There are no more Deion Sanders. They don't exist. Turn him into a corner. You know how valuable a lockdown corner is in the NFL?
Yep.
Way more valuable than a slot receiver that can maybe make a play or two once or twice a game, which is kind of what he is on the offensive side right now. So, again, I just coach 12-year-olds. What the heck do I know? But enough of the BS of the two-way stuff with Travis Hunter. He's a good corner. Make him a lockdown corner. I agree. I think the Niners are the side. I think that you bet under on the total. Purdy's back. They boosted the total up, I think, from 44 to 47. Why? Purdy, there's not a big jump with Purdy to Jones to Purdy. They're kind of the same quarterback, frankly, especially less than 100% Purdy. And you're not moving a total up 3 points because Bosa's hurt, because Michael Williams is back. So I feel like the Niners, this is kind of a slog and they win like 23-17 or something,
This was interesting. Robert Saleh in his press conference yesterday talked about how the Jaguars under Liam Cohen and the staff members there that came from, some Minnesota guys, that they steal signals. And he stressed that it's nothing illegal. It's that they've noticed that they are, when you watch them on film, it's like, hey, how did they know to be in this situation? And
That's a tweak. That's a tweak. He's trying to screw it. He's trying to screw with them because you don't call it stealing signals. You call it scouting. It's called watching film. Yeah. And he's calling it stealing signals to try to screw with their heads. It's a mind game.
What I think it could lead to is maybe Kyle is going to they're going to drop something that disguises something that no one's seen before. Like we might see something from San Francisco that we haven't seen on film yet.
Yeah, they're just going to change their calls. It's going to be a pain in the ass. All he did was he pissed Robert Saleh off because he made him do 6 hours more work this week to change all their calls. That's what he did.
Yeah.
Or maybe even more work than that. Who knows how much work it is really to change all their calls. But essentially what he did, this is like when you pull the fire alarm the night before the game so your team loses sleep. That's what this is the equivalent of. It's like the media equivalent of that because now you're making Robert Saleh lose sleep over having to change all of his defensive signals the week of the game.
Yes, exactly. That's exactly what's happening here. Let's move on. Rams hosting the Colts. in what is surprisingly a great game. The Rams 3.5-point favorites. Is this the game where Indiana Jones comes back down to earth, or does he go on the road and pick up a big win?
I'm going to change the narrative on Indy right now. I'm going to
Okay.
change it. We need to stop worrying about Daniel Jones sustaining his first in EPA per dropback numbers. It's not happening. Let's stop with that. Here is what they can sustain. Lou Anarumo is a good defensive coordinator. The
Yep.
Bengals personnel was the problem. The personnel in Indy is much better. Samson Ebukam had 10 sacks 2 years ago and then tore his Achilles and didn't play last year. He looks really good. Kwity Paye looks really good. Tyquan Lewis, DeForest Buckner, the kid from UCLA, Latu looks really good up front. That's the identity of this team. Their secondary is really good with Kenny Moore and Charvarius Ward. Nick Cross is emerging at safety. That is who the Colts are. They're not Daniel Jones 40 points per game. They are run the ball, Jonathan Taylor, close out the game with Lou Anarumo, and a good defensive line and a good secondary. That's what the Bengals were with Joe Burrow. Now, he had a little more explosive ability than Daniel Jones does, but the Bengals in their peak were a defensive team. That's what they were. And I think that's what the Colts are. That's how you sustain this if you're Indy.
Interesting. So would you look at the under then? In this
Yes. I bet the under 49.5. And I think the Rams are in under spot too. Devontae Adams a little banged up this week.
Yeah.
I think they're going to run it a lot with Williams and Corum. I think they know that Stafford, right? We've had 3 really tough physical games. Goodness gracious. Not the Titans one, but definitely the Texans one and absolutely the Rams one last week. I think you got to start protecting him and you got to start running the ball. And they're a favorite in this game. I think they get a lead and they run it and the Colts maybe come back and are spunky, but I think this is a lower scoring game. Total goes from 46.5 to 49.5. We saw this with the Bears Cowboys last week. To get to 50 in the NFL, a lot of things have to go right. The Bears gained 7.5 yards per play, still couldn't get over that total last week because Dallas screwed the pooch in the red zone. So I think these high total games with good defenses, the Colts and the Rams have good defenses. I say you go under.
I like it. I'm going to make that an official play. Chicago is at Vegas, and we've had a flip of the favorite here. So Chicago was a favorite. Now Vegas is a favorite. Circa still has a pick 'em, but up on the FanDuel Sportsbook right now, Vegas a 1.5-point favorite. So think about that difference, which, if you want to talk about an arbitrage here, you can kind of try and look at some money lines on this game, depending on what book that you are what you have here. It feels like a bounce back spot for Vegas. Feels like a bounce back spot for Geno against this Bears defense. And Chicago maybe sitting fat and happy off of that win last week. Does this feel like a fade spot for Chicago?
Kind of. I mean, they're going to have the crowd here in Vegas. That's for damn sure. This also feels like an under game. I feel like the Raiders can't block anyone. How about this stat? Genti, 144 rushing yards, 145 after contact. I did not know that was physically possible. Like that defies the laws of physics, but it is a true statistic. So they are negative in the blocking category. And when you're negative in the blocking category, you don't get any easy yards. All the 3rd and 1s or 4th and 1s. The red zone drives turn into field goals. And the quickest way for a game in the NFL to go under is to drive 7 minutes and kick a field goal. And it just feels like this game's going to be like 22-17 or something, like where the Bears and the Raiders are going to trade field goals all day long, 22-16, 22-19, something like that. So I'm surprised that the Raiders offense has been this bad. I expected more creativity. I know maybe the blocking personnel is not there, but maybe you get creative. You run duo. You try to get your receivers involved. I saw a ton of duo from Ohio State last year in the College Football Playoff, right? Duo is where you take 2 blockers, guard, center, guard, tackle, and you double team the defensive tackles. It kind of puts more of an emphasis on your tight ends blocking. Well, guess what the Raiders, they did with Bowers. Now they really only have one with Mayer, who's also concussed. But when your tight ends are good blockers, you can run duo because your tight ends can then chip the defensive ends. And then you can really, clean out the interior of the defensive line when you double team both of those nose tackles. So I thought we were going to see that a lot with Genti this year, and they just can't freaking block a lick. So I think maybe the Bears defense turned a corner or offense turned a corner last week, but I don't know because Dallas is so freaking bad. I think under 47 is the only real angle I have here.
That's a crazy stat about Ashton Genty.
It's
That is
insane.
unbelievable stat there. Okay, a couple more games to go here. Let's talk about the big matchup, Baltimore, Kansas City, where one of these teams is going to be 1-3. Baltimore is a 2.5-point road favorite, Jared.
Hmm. Another feels like an under game.
It does,
Baltimore
right?
is a very boom or bust team.
But
Very
can't you
boom or
also?
bust.
But the thing is, like, my first lean was under competitive game, important
Yeah.
game, right? Because one of these teams, like I said, is going to start 1-3, right? So it's a very important game, and as far as the standings are concerned. So I did lean towards the under, but then I started to think about it, and it's like, well, remember when I bet the under in that Bills game against the Ravens, and I'm like, how can I bet the under with these two
Yeah.
quarterbacks? How can I do
I
that?
agree.
How can I bet the under with Mahomes and Lamar?
I think it's more Mahomes than anything else. Where Allen is kind of a bully in these games, Mahomes is not a bully in these games. He's kind of a magician. And I think it feels like the game script is going to be both teams are going to just absolutely pound the rock. Lamar Jackson is coming off a game where he got sacked 7 times. And I watched a lot of that film and looked at some of the pressure rates. Like the blitz packages were super vanilla from Detroit. They were basically rushing forward the whole game and they were just sacking Lamar left and right. That is an alarming stat. So I think the way you combat that is you run the heck out of Derrick Henry and you say, listen, bud, you got to hold on to the ball, but
Yeah.
you got to pound Henry to oblivion in this game. Now, the Chiefs offense has a little bit of explosive ignition in them with Thornton and then Worthy coming back. I love the
Yep.
Thornton kid. I think he has a chance to be a real player in this league. His first 3 games, 38, 49, 33, his long reception in those 3 games. And his number was lined in like the teens in all of those games. So, you would think maybe Worthy will take some of that production away, but it only takes 1 on a long reception, right? So I think that's an interesting number to look at. Mahomes is 0-2 as a dog straight up at home. They lost a couple weeks ago to the Eagles, and they lost to the Bills in 2022. The bet here, if you got a good teaser book, is to tease the Chiefs up. But I think individually, I would say under would be the only real angle I have. I think both teams play it pretty tight to the vest.
Going to be a fascinating game to watch. Finally, Sunday Night Football, Packers 6.5-point favorites at the Cowboys. I'm all over Green Bay in this spot.
Yeah.
I think it's a terrible situation for the Cowboys to be in, especially now with CeeDee Lamb injured. This team is a mess right now, and the Packers, angry team coming off of the loss as the team that got upset as a touchdown or more favorite. It's an incredible trend, bounce back spot for them. And then there's also this. The Packers are on a bye next week. And here's some pre-bye week trends. If you go back, let's say, since the start of the 2021 season, teams playing before the bye week are 82, 63, and 1 against the spread. That's 57%. When favored, 49 and 25 against the spread, 66.2% ATS. These favorites playing before their bye week. Packers can throw caution to the wind. They have a whole week off. This is where they give maximum effort. After the loss last week to the Browns, they right the ship. This is a big-time performance, a big win, in my opinion, for the Green Bay Packers.
I can't add anything more to that because it's spot on. The only thing I'll say is you forgot the most intriguing angle of this game, which is Micah.
Win one for Micah? Sure.
Coming back to Dallas. How many split screens of Jerry and Micah are we going to get on Sunday night? This is a terrible spot. Like, I know we say this all the time, bad spot. This is the mother of all bad spots.
Yeah.
Not only all of the situational angles, the bye week, coming off the bad loss, all of those things are very valid. Not all of them, but I think they all together, kind of clumped together, hold a little bit of value. But in reality, the emotional edge that Green Bay has, because it wasn't like a typical situation where the Dallas players are upset that Micah left. It's the opposite, actually. The Dallas players are probably upset that Jerry forced him out. So it's like the double whammy here, where obviously Green Bay and Micah are going to be up. But Dallas is like, what the heck? We got to go against this guy. Screw you, Jerry. Like, it's like a weird psychological angle here that I think really favors the Packers. And you're getting it for less than a touchdown. And this stadium, remember the playoff game a couple years ago where Green Bay's offense came in and was just absolutely nails? Like, this just feels like last week was a mulligan. Give me the breakfast ball off the first tee against Myles Garrett, and let's tee it up on hole number 2 against this really soft Cowboys defense. And I think Jordan Love's going to go nuclear.
We thought that Michael was going to be a Cowboy forever, but I looked him in the eye, and he agreed to the deal. But that's just the way that I work. I've always worked that way.
That was pretty
Jerry,
good.
Jerry, just stay on Landman, okay? That you're much better
It's
as an
fantastic
actor.
on Landman. Did I give you that tape?
No, I've
He's
seen
a better
him much,
actor
man.
than GM.
He's amazing. He's amazing. All right, that'll do it for our Football Friday episode. Keep in mind, Football Friday part number 2 comes out a little bit later on today, little late morning, early afternoon release. So you'll get that on the podcast feed as long as you are subscribed to the podcast Better Day, wherever you get your podcasts from. This week's guest will be Kyle Hunter. Will join me, talk a little college football coming up on the program. And as a reminder, exclusively for subscribers to betterday.com. So this is not on the podcast feed. Go to the website, betterday.com. Make sure that you are a member. Click on the research and analysis tab, and you will find the video for the interview that I did with Michael Fabiano of Sports Illustrated Fantasy and Westwood One, and we talked fantasy football, sit or start. We built a little DFS lineup. Speaking of DFS lineups, great offer code we have for you on the website for Underdog as well. Bet $5, you get $100 in bonus bets. So check that out. Use promo code BetterDay, and go to the Sportsbook tab on our website, betterday.com. Click on the Sportsbook promos. It'll bring you to a website where you just select your state, and the Sportsbook promo available for you will pop up. So we are starting to incorporate some more books. Right now, we just have 3 with Underdog Kalshi, which is a prediction market. So, go take advantage of that, and Rebet as well. And I'm working on getting you guys more promo codes for more sports books. So we will constantly be updating that on the website on betterday.com if you just click on the Sportsbook promos tab. But again, go listen to that fantasy football interview with Michael Fabiano. It's available right now for you subscribers on the research and analysis tab up at betterday.com. Follow Jared Smith on Twitter at Jared Smith Bets. Make sure you catch him tomorrow morning on Fox Sports Radio at 9 a.m. Eastern Time, where he will be breaking down a lot of college football action. And then I'll be on tomorrow night on VSiN, 7 o'clock Pacific Time, with your NFL preview for Sunday, week number 4. I'm Scott Seidenberg. He's Jared Smith, and here's hoping you make today and every day a better day.